Welcome to Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. If you've not met me before, my name is Shelley Fishel. I'm known as the MS Office Maestro, and I've been training assistants, business owners, organizations for over 25 years on Microsoft Office application. And I still do that. Wherever I have a passion for assistants, I think you're all amazing. Businesses wouldn't work without you. And I've created this podcast for assistants everywhere. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to be chatting each week with a different guest expert. We'll find out how they got to where they are, what they're up to now, and how they can help you. Tips and tricks are abundant. We will learn to know. That's me, Shelley Fishel. Enough of this introduction. In a moment, I'll be bringing on my guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. And I'm thrilled today to have the amazing Paula Edwards with me. Paula is the founder. I'm just going to look at my notes. I can't remember. I mean, I know, but I want to make sure I get it right. So Paula is the founder of Advanced Virtual Assistants Limited. She's a certified director of operations and a trainer and mentor for virtual assistants and online business managers. And she is the lead trainer and mentor at the Advanced Virtual Assistants Academy. Is that right? Have I missed anything?
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, we've recently just launched our online business manager course as well. So I'm really excited. So we train virtual assistants and online business managers, but we've also got the agency. So we support businesses directly with our virtual assistants as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So for our listeners, just to let you know how Paula and I met, because I like to tell people how I know my guests. We just were talking about it before we came on air. Around about 8 years ago, Paula came to the PA show, which was then still called the Office Show, I think. And I gave one of my presentations that year. I couldn't tell you which one it was. It was probably Outlook or Excel. And Paula waited around at the end and she waited to talk to me. And it was very exciting that somebody waited to see me. I said, "Oh, I'm so excited to meet you in real life," sort of thing, because we'd seen each other online. So that's how we met. And I've watched Paula's business grow from being a solo virtual assistant to having an agency, which I think is phenomenal. It might be nice to talk about that bit. And also this online business thing that you just mentioned, Academy. What's that? What does that mean? What is an online business manager when it's at home?
Well, essentially, an online business manager, they're prevalent in the States and Australia. And I noticed with the virtual assistant world, it would follow suit with what's going on in those locations. And definitely the OBM, as it's known, is quite widely known in those countries. And I'm seeing it becoming much more commonly talking about in our virtual world, in the virtual online space. And essentially, we're actually getting inquiries now into the agency asking if they think, I know I need an OBM. So people are definitely knowing what it is more. And essentially an OBM, it's a much more sort of strategic partner to a CEO than the virtual assistant. The virtual assistant, I think the lines are a little blurred because there's some very good virtual assistants that definitely are picking up some OBM duties. But essentially the OBM is somebody who sits underneath the CEO who might have a small team of people, albeit they might be subcontractors, not necessarily employed. And that it's just to help take everything off of the CEO in terms of managing the team and making sure all the operations are happening and the wheels just keep turning. And the CEO can focus much more on forward-looking work, bringing in the business and focusing on whatever their zone of genius is. So it's a more sort of managerial, strategic partner to the CEO. Does that make sense?
It does. It's like a chief operating officer sort of thing. If you were in the corporate world, that would be the equivalent. Would that be right?
Yes, yeah. So like on a smaller scale, if you like, because not often the businesses aren't great big corporates, although we do work with some corporate and we also work with some bricks and mortar businesses in the OBM role. But in the main, it's the online space that has a bit of organizations like an agency like mine, for example, where I'm the CEO, if you like, and I would have an OBM underneath me who's making sure all of the things are happening as they're meant to happen to just take that part off me. So when you get that size, like a 6-figure plus size business, where you've got a small team or even a medium-sized team where you've got a VA social media, bookkeeper, I don't know, copywriter, for example, a small team of, and it's that person that's the strategic partner to the CEO that's making sure that the operational wheels keep turning, and the CEO just taking that off the CEO's shoulders, really.
Yeah. That's a really cool that's really good. That's really yeah, that's explained it perfectly. So what let's take it back a step
Mm,
now, and I'm going to ask you what motivated you to start Advance? How did that come about? Because you started off just I'm not going to use the word just because it's
no.
wrong. You started out as an amazing VA on your own, doing your own thing. So
No.
how did that come about? Why choose to be a VA, and how did you then become a larger entity?
I am a military spouse, so my husband's been in the RAF. We've been married nearly 30 years now, and we've moved around a lot in that time. And always I've been able to work. I've liked to work. I feel like it's part of my identity. It's something for myself. So always enjoyed to work. And we were posted to Germany in 2016, and there was no work opportunities for me. And I was really not very happy. I didn't enjoy not being able to work. And I say the stars aligned really. There was a business manager's course that was free, business startup course that was free to spouses at the time that I took up. And then I had ex-colleagues that are looking for some administrative support. And as I say, the stars aligned, and I set myself up as a virtual assistant then in 2016. And I got booked out pretty quickly. And what I found was when new work came in, I was really interested in getting involved in that business. And so I took on associates to take on my current VA work, and that kind of grew. That's how the agency grew. And I realized quite quickly that probably I was over delivering as a virtual assistant because I've done a lot of managerial, running other people's businesses, a lot of strategy in the past. And I actually really enjoy the strategy and going in and tidying up, as it were, and then having my team help with the implementation. So really liked that model, and that's where we grew to. And along the way, I did the director of operations course, really as a rubber stamp up to help authenticate me, really. Plus, I love CPD anyway. Yeah, and so the agency grew from there, and it's continued to grow. I think that was about 2018. I took on my first associate, and that's continued to grow. And then I started getting a lot of questions of people asking me how I've done it. So I gladly give my time away to people to tell them how I've done it, but realized I was losing a lot of time to do this. And
Yeah.
I was repeating myself. And also, there's only so much capacity somebody can take on, like how I set my business up in a 1 hour telephone call. And I could really see that their brain was just like, I can't, this is overwhelming. I can't take on any more. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to write it down. And that kind of grew legs. And that's how the academy was started. I started my VA course. This is how I did it. And so now today we've got the VA course and the OBM course and the membership.
Fantastic. How many members have you got if you're happy to share that information?
Not very many because we've just relaunched it. We shut our original membership down about 18 months ago and decided to make it something different. So we've now got the up level lounge, and we've only got about 20, 25 in there, I think, at the moment. And the idea is that I wanted to be like a comfort blanket for VAs, and OBMs who just wanted access to somebody who's been there and done it and got the t-shirt. So it's a really low cost membership where the content really is more about having access to me twice a month to bring anything, do hot seat coaching. Which way should I take my business? How do I handle this situation? Where do I find clients? Whatever, bring anything to the table. But also we'll be doing challenges like this December. We'll be doing real deep work on goal setting. I'm really big on, as I say, on strategy and goal setting. So we'll be doing a really big goal setting for the people in the membership. And so we'll do that quarterly, and we'll be doing various other, one thing we found that works really well is an accountability challenge. People really enjoy
Yes.
that. So that type of thing. So it's a very low cost comfort blanket is what I like to think of it.
Yeah, memberships actually to run a membership is quite a lot of work.
It
I've
is.
often thought about having a membership for what I do, but then I've thought, well, what can I bring to it that would make it, people buy my online courses, they do the course, they know how to do it, they attend a course with me, they then don't need me anymore because they know how to do it. So I'd
Mm.
have to just keep adding more and more and more to make people pay for a membership. And I just decided, for me, it was just too much work. If I'm being lazy, too much work.
It is a lot of
But
work. It's easily underestimated how much work it is. And we
yeah,
found with our first membership that we did, and I wasn't getting enjoyment out of it because
yeah,
I really get joy in helping people. And if I've not got the people there to help, then what's the point? Occasionally I run free one-to-one mentoring sessions. And what I was getting from those was a lot of people just, it's not the startup VAs, because there's lots of support out there for startup VAs. It's more the, like, I've been established and I've got this issue with a client, or I don't know which way to take my business. And so I just thought,
yeah.
I'm just going to make it really quite low touch and low cost, just to try and be, as I say, that comfort blanket to the people, the established VA and OBM.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, why do you think personal development? You mentioned CPD. Why do you think that is so important to you, or generally for? I mean, you said you did the director of operations course as a rubber stamp. So, why do you feel that's important?
I think that for me, I'm internal learner. I love to learn. It suits me very well, this environment, because the softwares are changing all the time. And so you have to have an open mind to learning, I think, because you have to stay abreast, or you'll know this. You have to stay abreast of all the changes that's happening in the technological world, don't you?
Oh yes.
and
Oh yes.
I do enjoy that part of it, but also I think it's, for me, in my specific role, I think that I always like to be able to bring more to the table. Things like, I've invested in some very expensive programs in the past, and things like I've done 2 launch courses, and I did that to help me launch my programs in the academy. You know, let's have let's hear what the gurus say about how this should be done. But what I've not realized that's done without thinking about it, is it's given me a lot of knowledge to be able to add that to things that I can help people with. I can deliver it as a service, and I can help train it to other VAs or OBMs as well. So it's a win situation, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm waiting for the email from one of my Microsoft MVP gurus that I follow, who's launching a course, and he's got his 50 founder spots at a reasonable course, and I'm just waiting for the email to drop. He's in Australia, so it's probably sometime in the middle of the night it'll turn up. But I told him to hold my spot because I'm definitely enrolling on that course. Yeah, I agree. I think learning is really important, and it also keeps you young, and it keeps you abreast of what's going on and what's going on. I mean, it's really nice for me. My youngest son, who had his 34th birthday yesterday,
Wow.
he rings me up to ask me Excel questions from time to time. How do I do this, mum? Or how do I format that, mum? Which is very, very, very funny. I
I,
find that hysterically funny
it
that
is.
my kids phone me up to ask me Excel help. It's usually the other way around,
I love that.
from what I gather.
I think
It's,
it's about that growth
uh,
mindset as well, isn't it? It's just always moving forward. And I do agree. I think it's really good to use your brain. I remember the job I left before I started as a BA, my boss was 78 and working full time. And then he dropped down to part time for a while. He has since retired. No, but I think
oh,
he
good.
always, yeah, enough to use his brain. I think there's something in that.
Yeah. I know, yeah, I mean, I every so often, each year I think I'm 65 now, and each year I think I'm about to be 66 in January. Oh my goodness, how did that happen? But no, but seriously, I mean, each year I think, well, maybe this is the year that I'll stop, and then I think, yeah, I write a blog. No, I'll learn a new piece of software. Yeah, I'll see how this works. I'll unpick that, and
Um,
I love, like, love the aspect of helping people get and be more productive, albeit I want to be paid to do that like
yeah,
you do. I have done so much for free over the years, and I'm now much, much more careful of my time,
yeah,
and giving away free training, because it's that kind of, can I pick your brain?
I
You
know.
get people phoning up saying, can you just, it'll only take 5 minutes. Can you just tell me? Get
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I do a bit. I don't mind giving away some of my knowledge to help people move along, but I think that there does become a time when that's unfair to keep asking for that, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying I don't help. Of course I help
Yeah.
everybody, but
Yeah.
there comes a point where you think, "Hang on a minute. Now that's taken an hour of my day when
That's it.
what would I have charged for?" So,
Yeah, and it's
you know,
okay if just one person, but when it becomes multiple,
yes.
could pick up quite a few hours of your day, can't it?
It can. So let me ask you, what do you enjoy most of all the things that you do? 'Cause you do a lot of things. What's your favorite? My kids hate this. I'm always saying, what was the best bit?
I think what I've learned, what I've come to learn is that I really feel passionately about people creating their version of freedom and flexibility. And I think that applies to both the academy and the agency. You've got a stressed, overwhelmed business owner that needs support. It is so satisfying to support them and give them back some of their freedom and flexibility. But equally for people who are looking to become a VA, or I speak to women especially, but sometimes it's men, but mostly women I speak to who have been managing a home and children and all of those things and may not have been in the workplace a long time and want something for themselves. And I feel really passionately about we can have our cake and eat it. I really think that you can do it. What I love about the VA world is that you can do as much or as little. You can create a business like mine, or you can have something that fits around the children for the moment and have that as well. So one thing I love is just really helping people get that freedom and flexibility in their life.
That's really, really good. And I like love the idea of being able to work when you want to work. When I was when my kids were small, VAs, well, actually, VAs, it did exist. My friend was a really good typist, and she used to type up stuff for a solicitor, but it used to be delivered to her, a pile, because she had small children. So she'd do it in the evening when they were in bed, and she'd get a pile of files and a dictaphone, a cassette tape, and she would sit there in the evening and type everything up. And then the next day or 2 days later, whatever they'd agreed, he'd pick that lot up and deliver that. So that was kind of a sort of early VA, wasn't it?
Oh,
But
yes.
I wasn't able to do anything like that because I didn't have any of those skills,
No.
um, skills to do that until I
No.
learnt Pitman typing.
Yeah, I felt
So,
typewriter.
and
I'm
it
not a much typist, but I think that's the thing. Technology's facilitated that for so many more of us now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it I do well, I'm in technology, so I you would expect me to say that I love technology, but I do. So what tips, what can you share with our listeners to what tips or learnings from your own experience could you share? And maybe what advice would you give? So if we're talking to the corporate listeners who are listening, and maybe there's somebody out there thinking of jumping ship and going it alone. Maybe they've gone back to work after small children and find that
Mm.
it's just all too much and they want to get a bit more freedom. What would be your advice to those people?
I think that we've got to try and make our lives our own, haven't we? So far as we know, we only get one go at this. And I think that women should, and I'm sorry to keep saying women, I don't mean to be sexist, but it is mainly women that I see too. But women very often think, oh, I'll start my life when the children are older. But I do want people to know that you can have both, really. And I would say to anybody who's thinking, whether they're thinking of leaving the traditional PAEA role to set up a business and have this a bit more freedom and flexibility around the children, or really wherever you've come from and you think this bachelor assistant role, or even indeed the OBM, if you've already been working in a more strategic role, I can definitely wholeheartedly say I'll never look back, and I'll eat my hat if I ever go back to employment, because I just love that freedom and flexibility. And it's not all about roses. Running your own business does have its challenges, but I genuinely wouldn't change it for the world. But in terms of my tips, really, I struggle to narrow it down to three. I think the big thing is communication. I think it's really important because we're working remotely. Communication is so much more important. Your boss can't look over your shoulder and see where you are with things. And whilst they're not going to be your boss, you're going to be, this is another good point, you're going to be equal business owners. They do want to be kept abreast of where you're at with something. And even if you have to convey not so good news, like I'm not going to meet that deadline or something, it's just communication is just everything. You have to be honest and upfront and keep them abreast, because none of us are perfect and we do sometimes make mistakes or agree to something we can't quite deliver on time or whatever. So communication is really key. Even if it feels uncomfortable, it makes it for a better outcome all round if you have that conversation early on. You won't be surprised to hear that I think strategy is really important. So thinking about what your big vision is and pulling out the objectives, your goals and everything to help you get there. I'm really a big fan of that. And I think it's really important for growth if that's what you want. Can I say 4 tips? Because I've got 2 more. Can
Yes,
I?
yes, 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 yes.
One,
You
one.
can, as much as possible.
I think it's also really important to think about what your boundaries are and then respect them yourself. Because a lot of
Yes.
the one-to-one mentoring that I have come to me is when people haven't thought through their boundaries, or even if they have, they then disregarded them themselves. We can't always blame the client for this. And I think about what your boundaries are. I don't work after 5 p.m. Well, don't pick up the phone to anybody after 5 p.m. Respect your own boundaries, because what that does is that further down the line, there becomes an expectation that you'll pick up the phone after 5 o'clock. And then there's a resentment that can build because that's not what you want in your life. So I think about what you want your boundaries to be and then respect them yourself. And it really will make for a happier self-employed person. And then finally, my 4th point is community and networking. Having a community is just really important. Find your business besties, people you can lean on, your support network. It might be somebody who you want to go to, that's further down the line and can help you with things that you coming across that you don't know how to handle. It could be somebody who's at the same point as the journey with you and you can do it together. Whatever it is, build that support network, because it can be quite isolating otherwise. And being a business owner, when you're a VA or an OBM and it's just you, it feels a bit isolating. So yeah, build that community around you is what I'd say.
That's brilliant. Those are brilliant tips. And I love the last tip in particular, the community and networking has actually come up in every interview I've done
That's
so
it
far.
really.
So it really, really, really is important.
Yeah.
And I would also, yeah, I mean, all of your tips spot on. Communication, I think, is key in any role. We all have to let people know. And I mean, I work with a VA, and it's that frustrating thing of, well, I asked her to do it, and she hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
And usually there's a very good reason for that. It's
Yeah.
taken longer than anticipated,
Yeah.
or my expectation is unrealistic as the client. So
Yeah.
you need to make that clear. And I love the boundary one and the not picking up the phone to them, because we train our clients
Yeah.
or our people how they're going to respond. So if
Hmm.
you answer an email out of hours, they'll expect that. And that's also come up in quite a few of the interviews. So there is
Yeah.
a theme running along here, which is
Well,
amazing.
yeah. Good to know.
So let's yeah, so let's just draw to a close, Paula. It's been a really fascinating chat, and I'm sure that our listeners will have taken lots of learning from that. And thank you once again for being a guest on Virtually Amazing Assistant podcast for assistants everywhere. Bit of a mouthful. I must think of a better tagline, but it kind of came to me one day, and I thought that's what it is. So
it.
thank you so much. Sorry.
I said it does what it says. It's important.
It does what it says on the tin. So
Yes.
once again, thank you very much for joining me. This episode will go out at some time. I can't remember exactly when, but I will be letting you know, and it will be on the Virtually Amazing Assistants YouTube channel, along with on the podcast, which my podcast host is Blueberry, by the way, for those listeners who want to know where to find it. But it's also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and a couple of other podcast hosts as well. But you'll be able to find it. It's already out there, and each week, every Tuesday, the next episode will drop. So I look forward to seeing you all sometime soon. Thanks for listening. I'm going to see you next week with my next guest on the Virtually Amazing Assistant podcast. And that's me, Shelley Fishel, the MS Office Maestro, signing off for this week.